the reading workbook first. Reading workbook. So the first passage in was it 5? Passage set 5. Okay. Let's take a look at this passage. This passage a little bit difficult. Yeah? Difficult? Yeah. Or okay, good. Not difficult at all, actually. Treat it like a history passage. What do I mean? Understand the gist and move on. If you find points of repetition, you don't necessarily need to focus on that. Okay? You don't need to try to understand every single sentence. I know we're looking for plot and characterization. This one actually, College Board said. This is from practice test 2. The College Board official practice test 2, which College Board said they got rid of this test, by the way. Why do you think they got rid of this? Because it doesn't conform to what they want to do. But just in case, we want to take a look at a passage like this. So I think, so like some other passages on this test, practice test 2, that doesn't conform to what College Board does nowadays. It's more plot driven and characterization heavy, but this one is kind of out of the ordinary, but still it's worth looking at. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it doesn't give us any information. It just says the title itself doesn't give us any information. We don't have any background knowledge. So, what do you think? What do you think? Why do you think they didn't give us any information? Because they want you to figure that out. They want to test that. That's what they want to test. That's why they didn't tell you anything. Okay? They like when we read Jane Eyre. What did it say? Oh, the title character is governess at Dornfield Hall Estate, and then blah blah blah, that kind of thing. But here nothing is given, so you need to figure that out. You need to figure out who's who and what kind of relationships they have. That's your thing, what the setting is. So that should be your focus. Okay, so let's take a look. No man likes to acknowledge that. Okay, so I don't know who's talking, first of all, right? Is it a character in it could be a character in the story, or it could be just a third person narrator. Okay, so no man likes to acknowledge that he has made a mistake. Okay, so no one wants to acknowledge he has made a mistake, right? No one likes to acknowledge he made it. That's pretty simple, right? But it's a pretty specific mistake that he wants to talk about, right? What kind of mistake? In the choice of his profession. Oh, okay. So people don't want to say, okay, I chose the wrong job, right? That's what he wants to say. People don't want to admit that they chose the wrong job. And every man worthy of the name. Okay, so that's the first idea that he wants to convey. So does this have anything to do with the plot though? No, like this is just like a general blanket statement applying for everybody, okay? Why would we say that? Because the story probably has to do with that. The story probably has to do with this guy choosing the wrong job. Maybe, right? I mean, we kind of know because we read the passage, but still, like you can kind of guess it, right? All right, so no man wants to acknowledge that he chose the wrong job. Okay, so I mean, if you're getting kind of confused, just like make a note, right? No man likes to acknowledge that he chose the wrong job, right? And every man worthy of the name will row long against wind and tide. Okay, so it's figuratively, right? Figuratively, not literally. Not literally they will row, but they will row long against wind and tide. I don't know what this exactly means. Before he allows himself to cry out, I am baffled, and submits to be floated passively back to land. Okay, so this whole thing is a metaphor, right? They will try hard, before they admit they made a mistake. So floating back to land would be them admitting their mistake and them trying not to admit that and just trying to work with what they have would be them rowing, right? Okay, so it's basically the same thing. He's emphasizing what he's just said using figurative language. So you should not get lost here. As soon as you realized, okay, it's figurative language, what do you think you should have done? You should have said, okay, so this whole thing, right? This whole thing is actually just gonna support this point, the first point. It's an identical point, okay? From the first week of my residence in X, I felt my occupation irksome. Okay, so there we go. So the narrator himself is in the story, right? It's a story about the narrator, first person story, and this person looks at his job, right? Looks at his job, and what does it say? Okay, irksome. All right. So if you did not know what irksome means, you could have guessed though. You could have guessed that it's at least something negative. I mean, if you had to guess between something negative or positive, do you think it's going to be negative or positive? I mean, just by how it looks, okay? Look at the cues, okay? So look at the context, look at the clues, look at the K's and stuff like that, right? Does it look good or bad? Bad, right? So we can just say, okay, so I didn't like my job, kind of, okay? If you don't know what that is, you can leave it at that. Say, okay, I looked at my job, didn't really like it. The thing itself, what's the thing? Okay, he elaborates on the thing. The work of copying and translating business letters. Okay, so that was his job, right? So you just take note of that. That's going to be a plot point, I guess. Was a dry and tedious task enough? Okay, so that's how he viewed it. So what's his attitude towards his job? He thought it was dry and tedious, right? So he did not like it. He thought it was a little bit boring, okay? So I'm just kind of going to rephrase here. He looked at his job, said, okay, that's kind of boring, but had that been all, I should have borne with the nuisance. Okay, so he's saying, okay, that was it though. If that were it, I would have been okay with it. So obviously there was something more. So that's what you need to find out, okay? So he's implying that wasn't all. If that was it, I should have been content, right? I should have worked, I could have worked with it, but that's not it. So what's more? So that should be your focus, right? Okay, so what was your problem, right? Tell me what was your problem. Okay, so it says, I am not of an impatient nature. Okay, so characterization here, right? He's not impatient, so we can just do this, right? Okay, so he's not impatient and influenced by the double desire. Okay, see, he's not influenced by the double, no. He's not saying he's not influenced, he's saying he is influenced, okay? He has a double desire. I wonder what this is, right? I mean, I guess he just wants two things, two opposing things, most likely. I mean, okay, so let's take a look. Getting my living and justifying to myself and others the resolution I had taken to become a tradesman. Okay? So getting my living, just, I mean, this one's simple, right? Just making a living, but at the same time, what else did he want? He wanted to justify his choice, right? Justify his resolution to become a tradesman, right? I should have endured in silence the rust and cramp of my best faculties. Okay, so take a look here. I should have, right? So remember when we were reading a history passage and it says the members of the convention ought to have amended the old system or something like that, right? They ought to have amended the old system. Do you remember that from the first test? That was an important part, right? They ought to have amended. So what does that imply? If you say, okay, do you remember this? You need to remember this, okay? I said this was important. If your mom tells you you should have done your homework, what's the connotation? You should have done your homework. You didn't do your homework. I should have endured. What's implied here? He did not endure. Okay, so clearly he's regretting something. So something happened. He didn't endure something. Okay, right? So he said, okay, I should have endured. Right? I should have endured. Okay, so endured what? I guess it's job. But think about this. Think about this. Is it his boring job that he's saying he should have endured that? Is he saying that he should have endured his boring job? No, because back then, what did he say? If it was just the boredom, I would have been okay with it. But that was not it. But he didn't tell us what that is yet, right? I don't know what that thing is. It's coming. You should have that expectation, okay? So, but, all right, so let's look at his regrets. I should have endured in silence the rust and cramp of my best faculties. I should not have, okay, so doesn't mean anything. I mean, honestly, because I have no idea what he's talking about. Endured something, right? Best of my faculty. I should have tried hard to endure that. I should not have whispered, even inwardly, that I longed for liberty. Okay, so whisper inward, so think to himself, right? So what did he think? I want freedom, right? That's what he thought internally. But he's saying, no, I shouldn't have done that, right? I should have just endured. I should have, all right. If you're trying to understand all of these, you're stupid. You're stupid. You don't know, you're not thinking. You're immersed in the reading. You shouldn't do that. Why? Are they gonna be all different? Do you think they're gonna be different? Do you think they're gonna be different? Do you think all of these are gonna be different? No, they're all the same. They're all the same. So if you were reading this and you go, oh, like, this is so hard, wrong choice, right? Just wrong, okay? I mean, okay, so we will take a look though, okay? But notice that it's going to be the same thing. I should have pent in every sigh. It's getting kind of old right now, right? He's just saying, okay, so I really should have just endured. I really should just told myself, like I shouldn't have told myself that I want liberty. I should have pent in every sigh, right? Just don't sigh, just put it in which my heart might have ventured to intimate. It's distress, right? So you shouldn't have ventured into his heart and explore his distress under the closeness, smoke, monotony, and joyless of big fun close and his panting desire for freer and fresher scenes. He said, I want freer and fresher scenes. He's saying, I shouldn't have done that. Skip it. Come on. Logically. You're being illogical if you didn't skip this, okay? Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. So where am I going to read? Right here, right? It says it has a but here. But what does it say? But this was not all. You should see this connection. If you saw this connection, this passage is so easy. What does this connect? But this was not all. Right? So it's structured this way. So if you take a look at this passage, right? So here it says, all right, it's pretty boring, right? I mean, this part is a general sentence. I mean, general sentence talking about something else. But he would say, okay, my job was boring, but if that was it, I should have been born with it, right? I should have. I could have endured, but what does he say? I should have been. I should have endured, but that was not all. So you see that connection? Okay, so we had all these regrets here, but doesn't mean anything. Okay, get it? This was not all. Okay, so now is the real important part, because he's going to talk about something that really bothered him in his job. Okay, so what's that thing? The antipathy which had sprung up between myself and my employer, striking. Do you think this is going to be like love? Do you think this is going to be really good? No, this was the thing that bothered him the most, right? So if you don't know what antipathy means, it doesn't matter. You should have guessed at least that it has a negative connotation, right? So, okay, so we'll just say that then, okay? Negative. So what's that? So his employer. So we have his employer and the narrator, right? Narrator, I'll just say I. And what's the relationship like? Don't like each other, okay? Striking deeper and spreading denser shade daily. So it was increasing, it was getting worse every day. It was getting worse every day. Excluding me from every glimpse of the sunshine of life, right? Okay, so he's saying how bad this was. Do I care about this guy? No, I don't care how bad it was. I know you're just saying it's bad. I just want to know what happened. That's what I want to know. All right, so let's take a look. Next part. Antipathy is the only word which can express the feeling. Edward Crimsworth. I guess this is the employer, right? So we'll just name this guy EC from now on. A feeling in a great measure involuntary. Okay. Well, he's expanding on that a little bit. And which was liable to be excited by the most trifling movement, look, or word of mine, right? Okay, so he hated every movement of me. But, I have a lot of questions, like, so what happened? Like, I mean, you need to take this in some kind of direction. You need to say, okay, so what happened? So did you kill him? What happened? Or you could say, okay, well, why did this happen? Right? I mean, you need to go somewhere with this. You can't just, talk about this forever. So I'm looking for that transition. Okay? My southern accent annoyed him. Okay, so it's going into detail, a little bit more detail, saying, I guess, why at least this guy hated me, right? Why did he hate me? Okay, annoyed. My accent annoyed him. The degree of education evinced in my language irritated him. Oh, okay. Sounded too smart and he didn't like his accent, right? Didn't like the way he talked. My punctuality, industry being hard work, right? Remember this. Okay, this word also, in history passages and in literature passages, it's going to be used in this way. It's not talking about like Silicon Valley, that kind of industry. We're talking about industry as in hard work, right? And accuracy fixed his dislike. Okay, so just like, every characteristic of this guy. But at the same time, what do we get a glimpse of? We get a glimpse of the narrator's characterization, right? Let's see. He has a pretty substantial education, I guess. I mean, relatively speaking, more so than this guy, I guess. And he's a hardworking guy, right? And gave it the high flavor and point of relish of envy. He feared that I too should one day make a successful tradesman. Okay, so I guess I can infer that this guy was a pretty successful tradesman. EC also, right? But what did he fear? Like, why didn't he like the narrator? He's saying, okay, this guy might one day become like me, or something like that, right? Didn't like the way I talked, blah blah blah. I mean, we don't need to understand all the feelings. We just need to know what it is, okay? And then it says, had I been in anything inferior to him, if I were inferior to him, he would not have hated me so thoroughly. Okay, yeah. So it's saying like the narrator and EC, they were equal, or the narrator was a little bit better. That's why this guy hated him so much. He would not have hated me so thoroughly. But I knew all that he knew, and okay, what was worse? He suspected that I kept the padlock of silence on mental wealth in which he was no share. Okay, so padlock of silence. If you're thinking about what this means, you're stupid, again. But why? Why are you thinking about, like, come on, okay? PS on, come on, right? Like, don't think about these kinds of things if you don't know what it is, okay? So he thought, okay, wow, that guy has PSMW, right? That guy has PSMW, which I don't have, right? Get it? Okay? EC was saying, okay, that guy has something that I don't have. I don't like that guy, right? And that thing is PSMW, okay? I mean, if you know what it is, I mean, if you can understand this, fine. But if you don't, I'm saying, don't think about meanings. Why are you doing that? Don't do it. It's slowing you down. Just go, right? If he could have once placed me in a ridiculous or mortifying position, he would have forgiven me much. Okay, so he's saying, this guy does not like the narrator because he seems too good, right? If this guy messed up, if the narrator messed up, EC would look at him and say, okay, he's worse than me, right? He's inferior to me. So that was the thing. But I was guarded by 3 faculties: caution, tact, observation. Wow. Okay. So he, I guess, employed all these faculties in order to not be caught in a mortifying position. I don't know what kind of mortifying position like there would be. It's no use if you think about, okay, what could this possibly mean? And you're thinking about examples. Like some people actually do that. Like why would you think about that? Just move on. Does it matter? You know what I mean, right? Okay. So I mean, this can be anything. I mean, if you really want to understand this, like I don't know, him making a mistake, like him working and then he made a mistake, and then that guy's like, you made a mistake, you messed up, haha, and how mortifying, wow, and this guy says, okay, now I know I'm better than this guy. I guess that's what it is, but it doesn't matter if you don't get that, right? So anyway, and prowling and prying, as with Edward's malignity, I could never baffle the lynx eyes of these, my natural sentinels. Okay, so what is this? We're talking about like lynx eyes, prowling, prying. Ignore the sentence. Why? Figurative language. Okay, so here's the thing about figurative language. Would you make a point solely by figurative language? No, that's bad writing. If you make your point solely by that, you would have to state your point and then emphasize using figurative language after that. That's how you do it, right? That's good writing. Bad writing is just using figurative language and leaving it up to the readers to figure that out. No, that's too ambiguous. That's too vague, right? So when you see figurative language, you could say, okay, like it's just probably emphasizing or expanding on the point that's been made before. So just do that, right? He was just elaborating on this, him employing these 3 faculties, him being careful, right? Okay, and then it says, day by day did his malice watch my tact, hoping it would sleep and prepare to steal snake-like on his slumber. Right, okay, so, they're playing kind of like a game. This guy wants to catch this guy in a mortifying position, but the narrator was being too careful, right, as to not be caught by this. And then it says, I had received my first quarter's wages and was returning to my lodgings. Okay, there's a plot. Here's a plot, right? Here's something that actually happened, right? So he's now describing a scene. It's actual something that's physically happening, right? So he was returning to his lodgings, I guess, the place that he's staying at. And then it says, possessed heart and soul with the pleasant feeling. Okay, so he was in a good mood. That the master who had paid me grudged every penny of that hard-earned pittance. Okay, pittance is just a small amount of money, right? So he's saying, like, okay, I got paid, I was going home, I was feeling good about myself. Why was I feeling good? Because the guy who paid me, the guy that I hate, did not like the fact that he paid me. So since he's unhappy, I was happy, right? That was it. I had long ceased to regard Mr. Crimsworth as my brother. Okay. Characterization, but ceased. Before and after, okay? You need to see these kinds of things, okay? That's how you should take this information in. If you're just reading this and just looking at the words, that's not you actually thinking about it. You're not taking anything in. You're just looking at the words. You're just looking at the surface you're just looking at the surface. It's not necessarily doing anything. So what is this? Like, so up to a point, he thought this guy was a brother, right? But at a certain point, not anymore, okay? And then it says, he was a hard grinding master. Oh, okay. So hard grinding master, like a very negative, it portrayed in a negative light, right? Hard grinding master. He wished to be an inexorable tyrant. Okay, there we go. Like that's what it is, right? Good. Thoughts, not varied but strong, occupied my mind. Okay. Now I guess he's going to be talking about these thoughts, I guess, right? It's kind of like a guideline sentence, right? Saying, okay, thoughts occupy my mind. So if you just end there, how confusing would this be? You know, it's really bad writing. If you say, okay, thoughts occupy my mind, what would you say after that? You would describe the thoughts, okay? So that's what you should be focusing on. Okay, so what were the thoughts? Thoughts, not varied but strong, occupy my mind. Two voices spoke within me. Right, there we go. Okay, again and again, they utter the same monotonous phrases. One said, okay, here we go. Okay, one said, William, your life is intolerable. So I guess this was kind of like a negative voice, right? The other, what can you do to alter it? Okay, so this is more like a positive and practical, future-oriented, goal-seeking kind of voice, right? This one's negative. You're saying, okay, you suck. Like your life is really bad. And he's saying, okay, let's try to improve it. So just like a traditional angel demon kind of dialogue within his head. I walked fast, for it was a cold, frosty night. Okay, so cause and effect, right? I mean, really trivial, but just annotate. Just do it, right? I mean, it's better than not. Frosty night in January. As I approached my lodgings, I turned from a general view of my affairs. To the particular speculation. So I guess this is, when he's saying he's turned from something to another thing, I guess he's talking about his thoughts. So he was thinking about the general view of his affairs. Right? Thinking about the general view of his affairs. Now, a particular speculation, right? So he was just thinking about his situation as a whole. I guess this whole passage was him thinking about his general situation, right? What was the general situation? Like he hated the job mostly because he hated his employer, blah, blah, blah. But now a particular speculation. What's that particular speculation? Is to whether my fire would be out. Okay, so this is something completely irrelevant, right? Saying, okay, is my fire still going at home? Right? And then it says, looking towards the window of my sitting room, I saw no cheering red gleam. Okay, so it's saying I didn't see the fire. What is this trying to say? Okay, so SAT aside, right? SAT aside, a literature lesson. Okay, why is this here? Why would you say there was no cheering red gleam? I didn't. Why would the writer include this? Why would he start talking about the fire all of a sudden?
The fire is like the metaphor for it's like trees and like the fire not being there, like kind of it's like the symbolism of it's like this thing.
Yeah, right. Okay. He's not I mean, he is talking about the fire, but it's meant to be something more. Okay? Like, let's say for example, I mean, bad writers, like let's say you're really reading like a really trashy novel, like it's really lowbrow, and then it's talking about a breakup, right? It's talking about a breakup between a boy and a girl, and then boy is heartbroken, blah, blah, blah. They would actually describe that, saying, oh, boy was so heartbroken that he broke up, blah, blah, blah. But no, in better novels, they wouldn't do that. What would happen in like better novels? It's like, okay, like they broke up, he left the building, and then there's a thunderstorm or something like that, right? Just an example, right? They wouldn't say it directly. They would say it indirectly using other devices, right? That's what this is, right? I mean, but that's not what, I'm just telling you guys, okay, just but it's not for the SAT. They're not going to ask you something like that for the SAT. All right, so let's take a look at the summarize question. Okay, so which choice best summarizes the passage? So what are you going to do first? You're going to do a true-false test. Okay, true-false test, and then what? Anybody remember? Okay, true-false test first, and then after that, what are you going to do? If you find two answer choices that are true, what are you going to do? Yeah.
Try to see why each one is right.
No. All of a sudden, you had to scratch your face. I thought you were raising your hand. Okay, write this down. Okay, so first you do a true-false test. Okay, so most of the times what's going to happen is if you do a true-false test, you're going to get rid of 3 answer choices. It's usually what happens, okay? But in some cases, you're going to have 2 true answer choices. So you're going to get rid of 2 answer choices and you're debating between C and D. And a lot of times you go by instinct here. It's like, oh, you know, I think that's the quote-unquote main idea. And then you just choose an answer choice based on your instinct, based on your intuition. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? You would choose the one, okay, after one, choose the one that covers more ground. Covers more ground physically. Okay? Choose the one that covers more ground. So say, for example, one answer choice, if you say, okay, so I think this is talking about like paragraph 3 or something like that. But this one, it's talking about paragraph 4, 5, and 6. And this one covers more ground, so that would be the answer, for example, something like that. Okay? So you need to actually like count the lines if you have to. I mean, you don't need to count the lines, but you can see it. You can see it, all right? Okay, so let's do a true-false test, all right? A character, probably the narrator, right, describes his dislike, all right? So what can follow after this? His job, his employer, his situation. For his new job, okay, not sure about this. Maybe he worked here for 50 years. Okay? Play devil's advocate and ask yourself, okay, how do you know it's a new job, right? Don't go back though. If you go back, you will waste time. Okay? Say you came across this word and then you're like, okay, I'm not really so sure about new. And then some people turn back to the passage. Don't do that. Just say, okay, I like this answer, but I'm not so sure about this word. Just do this and then move on, right? 2 characters employed in the same office. Okay, well, actually one was an employer, strictly speaking, but I'll let this go because it's 2 people working together anyway, become increasingly competitive. Okay, it's not competitive. It's just them hating each other, right? And one is an employer, actually. It's not 2 people employed, so that's wrong. A young man, all right, so do you know, how do you know he's young? How do you know he's young? Okay. Don't go back. Just do this. Young man regrets privately a choice that he defends publicly. Okay, so what would that choice be? Choice on his job, I guess, right? Right? So this one, yeah, except the young man part, I think it would be okay. What about D? A new employee, okay, same as here. I don't like this word new. Experiences optimism by, no, never happened. Where was the optimism? Where was it? No, nowhere. So I'm going to get rid of this, and then now A and C, right? So equally, I would say, okay, so I'm not so sure about this new job, right? That's my question. Considers the reasons why. Yeah, I mean, he did that, right? He considered the reasons. It's about, okay, I don't like my job, and I mean, if that was it, if the boredom was it, would have been okay. That wasn't it, right? It was my employer who hated me, right? So I guess it's okay. But what about this one? A young man. Okay, I'm not so sure about the young, but I guess, EC looking at the narrator, this person saw like the potential in him, blah, blah, blah. He can one day become a successful tradesman like me. So that may be perhaps, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to let these two things go. And I'm just going to do like a measuring contest. Which one covers more ground, okay? Character describes his dislike for his new job. Yeah, I guess like in the beginning, right? In the beginning it happens, considers the reasons why, all right? I mean, that one talking about his employer, right? Talking about his employer. Young man regrets privately a choice. I should have, right? You remember all those parts? Those were all regrets, right? That, and in the beginning, that he defends publicly. Okay, so I think it would be this one. This one is more all-encompassing for the entire passage. Like if you say the entire passage is about this, yeah, that's pretty good. Like it's about his internal debate, right? He's thinking about his situation, saying, my situation sucks, blah blah blah. Oh man, and he defends publicly. Yes. He would, this is implied actually in the first part, right? No man likes to acknowledge that he made a mistake in choosing his profession, kind of thing. So C is the right answer. 2, main purpose of the opening sentence. Opening sentence was what? Okay, it was that no man sentence, right? So it's not necessarily about the narrator. It's not strictly about the narrator. It's about people in general, right? Establish the narrator's perspective. Yeah, I could see that. On a controversy. No. What's a controversy? What?
It's kind of like a debate.
Yes. You guys don't know what a controversy is? Did you guys not look this up? You guys need to look it up. Okay? Did you look it up? Why?
Because I knew it.
Okay, then why didn't you answer me?
Then I'm scared.
No. Wrong answer. Okay, no. It's not a controversy, right? It's not two sides debating. Like one side is saying, we should do this, and another side saying we shouldn't do that. No, that didn't really happen. B, provide context useful in understanding. Okay, provide context. Yeah, I mean, it's a more general sentence, so it's okay. Useful in understanding the narrator's emotional state. Yeah, this one is okay. Offer a symbolic, no, it's not symbolic. Actually, okay, I mean, they did use figurative language. That's why they included this, just to trick you. But it's not a symbolic representation. A symbolic representation would be not mentioning what's actually the case, but talking about the symbol instead, right? Like Jesus talking about heaven, right? Instead of talking about heaven, he talks about, heaven is like, and he uses all those analogies. That's a symbolic representation, right? Contrast the narrator's good intent. No contrast in the beginning, right? So B is the right answer. Okay. During the course of the first paragraph, the narrator's focus shifts from, shift. Okay, so it's about the first paragraph exclusively, by the way. So you just need to look at the first paragraph, okay? So let's take a look at the first paragraph. Okay, so you either need to, like I said, okay, if you're gonna go back to the passage before you start looking at the answer choices, okay? And have a general sense before you go to the answer choices, or read all the answer choices and then go back, okay? But don't go back in the middle. You will be screwed if you do that. Okay, so it's talking about this, right? It's talking about blah blah blah. You know, usually this is the case for people. You know, they don't want to acknowledge this, and then it's talking about his job. Okay, so it's talking about his job. And what does it say? It's talking about his regrets. Okay, so that general statements, and then it had the talking about how he didn't like his job, and then talking about his regrets. And then later on it talks about that was not it. It was about EC and me, right? Okay, so let's go to the answer. Recollection of past confidence. No. When? We're just, I mean, I included pretty much everything. I don't see any past confidence, right? Reflection on his expectations of life. So what does he expect? What does he expect to be? Does he expect to be a millionaire? Does he expect to be broke? Like, no. I don't know. Generalization about job dissatisfaction. Yeah, that will be this, right? To the specifics of his own situation. Okay, so that's pretty good. Evaluation of factors making him unhappy. Yeah. Alternatives? No. Right? So C. Okay, so for number 4, who chose who chose A? B? C? D? Okay. What does okay, so if you got this wrong, it's because of vocabulary, okay? Sinister confinement. Okay, so what does confinement mean? Yeah.
Kind of being isolated a bit, like being put into like one place.
Yeah, if you're confined, you know, like confined, I mean, it could be literally or figuratively also, right? I mean, not figuratively, but more so in an abstract sense. But if you confine something to something, it means you're just dislocating that particular thing within a specific zone and saying like you're just making boundaries, saying you can't come out of that, right? So is he scared of being stuck somewhere? No. What does sinister mean? Yeah. Evil. So does the narrator want to kill this guy? No. He's just really he's just really upset, right? He's upset, and he doesn't like this guy, and you know, that kind of thing. So dismay is of course better than sinister here. He doesn't want to do anything evil, right? Doesn't want to hurt the guy. The passage indicates that Edward Crimsworth's behavior was mainly caused by, all right, so we have a cause and effect. Do we have a line reference question? No, we don't. Okay, so I mean, we didn't actually annotate a cause and effect. I do not remember this being in effect, right? Okay, so I mean, you could go back to the passage beforehand if you want, but I'd rather look at all the answer choices, eliminate the ones that are obviously not true. Okay, impatience with the narrator's high spirits. We don't know if this is true. I remember this because what was the narrator's characteristics? Like hard-working, well-educated guy, right? He had an accent and stuff like that also. Scorn of the narrators, we don't know. Like he might be from a really well-off family. We don't know anything about humble background. Indignation at the narrator's rash actions. Okay, rash actions? What does rash mean? Yeah. Yeah. Rushing something. No, so no. Jealousy, yeah, it was there. Of the narrator's apparent superiority. Yeah, this is possible, right? Potentially, he was equal or better than this guy, right? So it's D. Okay. What about this one? Passage indicates that when the narrator began working for Edward Crimsworth, he viewed Crimsworth as, all right, so we chose A, B, C, D. Okay. It's this. It's asking you if you caught this, okay? If you caught the before and after, right? So this was the hint. I had long ceased to regard him as my brother, right? And then he says what? Now he was a hard, grinding master, a tyrant. So what can you imply? These two things are opposite to each other, right? So those of you who got this question wrong, you got it wrong because you look at the word brother and then you injected your own connotation into it. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So what if you have a brother, right? You have a brother who always, you have a brother who always punches you, right? Like as soon as he sees you, like once in every 30 seconds, he punches you. So that's how that's your opinion of what a brother is like. Oh, brother is someone who punches me twice every minute, right? Then you would choose something like that. No, okay. You don't have any expectations, okay? So, okay. Our answer is going to be something that is not a tyrant. Get it? Something that's not a tyrant. So you're going to negate tyrant, right? Or hard grinding master. You want to negate that, okay? So what are some of the so what's the most prominent characteristics of a tyrant, okay? Well, of course, they're at the top of the hierarchy, right? So in terms of hierarchy, they're higher up than you, and what do? They're authoritative. So I want to do that. Well, harm, it has nothing to do with harm, okay? And it's not necessarily, well, rival, no, right? Sympathetic, yes, this could be true because, tyrants are not sympathetic. That's kind of implied in their meaning, right? Ally, this is possible, right? Perceptive, why judge? You know what I mean, right? So it's not necessarily a negation of tyrant. Mentor? No. I want to choose an answer choice that gets the brother, and brother was the opposite from tyrant, okay? So that's why B is the answer. Okay, I had long ceased to, so D is the right answer here, right? 7 is D. Okay, so it's asking us why would he use this analogy? Why would he use the analogy of the lynx and the snake, right? So it was to, this is what we talked about, right? You make like a general point, right? You make a general point, and then you follow that up using figurative language. You illustrate that point, right? Using that figurative language. And what was our point when before we talked about this? Our point was, like he wanted to catch me in a mortifying position, but I was guarded by caution, tact, and observation. I was really careful, right? And he wanted to expand on that. So it's not contrasting something. It's not conveying the ferocity. No, it's suggesting the likelihood of an out. No, he's doing this. It's talking about their relationship. He wanting to catch me in a mortifying position, so he's always lurking and just trying to catch me while I'm being really careful. It's that kind of relationship. It's illustrating that, right? It's not saying they're going to eventually fight. It's not that's what C is saying. Suggesting that they're eventually going to fight. No, right? So it's not saying the resolution is ferocious. What does that even mean? Okay, so D is the right answer. What about this one? So who chose A here? B? C? D? Okay. So if you chose D, you got confused. I mean, like you're looking at the wrong points. You're not distinguishing between the parts in a passage, right? Back when we were talking about Jane Eyre, we had this, right? So we had a bunch of characterization for Adele, but I said this would be a really bad way of annotating that. I said I would have to distinguish between point 1, 2, and 3, right? Because that's they chop the passage up like that. It's not necessarily all talking about one same idea. So same here, okay? If you chose D, you just got lost and you just looked at that phrase, oh, your life is intolerable. That's the only possible reason I can think about D. But okay, so let's look at these. So all of these are adjectives, right? It conveys his attitude towards his living quarters, right? What did he think about the place that he lives at? What does he think about that? What's his attitude towards that? Okay. What do we need? I say we need a tone word. Okay. We need an adjective that conveys his attitude. Okay. Towards his living quarters. Okay. So I'm just going to look for that specific word. Okay. Okay. Your life is intolerable. Your life is intolerable, but maybe his place is freaking amazing. It's not talking about his living quarters, right? Maybe he lives in a 5-star hotel. You don't know, right? So it's his life. It's not his living quarters, right? You know what I mean? It's not the place where he's staying. So now this is the first time we talk about his living quarters, right? And then what does it say? I turn from a general blah, blah, blah. I don't see any tone words except this. And then he says, and then he precedes that with the no. Okay? So what is he saying? What's our answer? Not cheery. Okay? You're going to choose an adjective that's closest to not cheery. What's that? B, dreary, right? Nothing to do with predictability, okay? So this one, yeah, D, right? I mean, I didn't know there was a line reference question. Okay, so any questions on this passage? No? Okay, you guys can take a break. Okay, any questions on the passage that we just said? No, right? Now let's take a look at writing first. Problem set 7. Okay. I'll take questions on this set. Yeah.
7.
Huh?
20.
Huh?
20.
20?
22.
Hmm? 21? 22. 18. Okay. Hey, here's what you guys should do. Okay. I don't think I told you guys this yet. I may have, but I might not have also. If when you're doing a writing question, this is how you should. When you're doing a writing section, this is how you should approach it. Okay. If you, what's your entire life savings, Matthew? Like how much money do you have in the bank?
$3,000.
$3,000. $3,000? That's a lot. $3,000. Okay, so that's your entire life savings, right? Like how old are you?
17.
17. Okay, so for 17 years you have $3,000. So for every question, you need to bet. You need to be able to bet $3,000 that you're right. Okay, I mean, but there are gonna be like, okay, so what I'm saying is this. You need to be able to bet your life savings that this is the answer. You need to be able to say, okay, these three answer choices, I know they're not why. I know why they're not the answer choices. Then, if you have a chance to double this, why wouldn't you not bet on this, right? You would bet, right? If it's a simple grammar question and you eliminated 3 answer choices, you know for sure, you know all the rules that go against A, B, and C, then you would choose this and you would bet your life saving on that, right? Then you don't need to mark this, okay? If you're hesitant to bet your entire life savings on that answer, put a star next to it, okay? Even if you're, so you would only bet your entire life savings on a question if you're 100% sure that you're right, right? Then you cannot, you don't have to mark it. But starting from 0% to 99%, you need to put a star next to it because there's an element of uncertainty there, okay? So for every test, I want to see that, okay? For every section. If you're not 100% on a question, mark it, okay? Okay, more?
42.
42. 9? 34.
24.
Okay. You guys can ask me, okay? I'm still open to more questions, but I'll just start doing these, okay? So it's a combined sentence question, okay? So number 7, okay? This is I think worth doing, okay? Combined sentence, okay? So the first thing is, wait. In fact, so it's starting from here. I don't see the underline, right? Is it starting from here? So it's, in fact, now includes blah, 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 many. Is it these 2 sentences? Oh, okay. So, all right, let's take a look. Before we take a look, think about what you're going to do, okay? Think about what you're going to do first. Don't just jump right into it. What you're going to do is you're going to look at the 2 sentences. You're going to take it in, right? If it's too long, I'm just going to circle the key phrases, right? I'm going to circle the key phrases, and then what am I going to do? I'm going to see the relationship between the 2 sentences. And then I'm going to go through the answer choices, eliminate anything that contaminates the meaning or gets the grammar wrong. And then I'm going to look for concision. Okay, so make up your mind, right? So let's take a look. Librarians training now includes courses. Okay, librarian training includes courses, and then it's elaborating on the courses, I guess, right? Research and internet search methods. Okay, and then it says many of whom teach classes in internet navigation. Okay, so it says many of whom. So I know this sentence is grammatically incorrect, right? But anyway. It's talking about librarians, right? So librarians teach classes in internet navigation, blah, blah, blah. So all of these, right? So librarians training includes these, and librarians teach classes in all of these, right? So first sentence is, so librarians training includes a lot of courses, right? Includes. And then librarians teach classes, right? And then these things, software. Okay, so let's take a look. Now I'm just going to look at the grammar, and I'm just going to look at the meaning, okay? A says what? In fact, librarians training, okay, so that's good. Now includes courses on blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is the first sentence in its exact words, right? And then what does it have? A semicolon. Fine, right? Many librarians teach classes in internet. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Many librarians teach classes. Okay, so subject, verb, and digital information is taught by them. And okay, I mean, grammatically it's correct because we have a coordinating conjunction here, and then we have a subject and a verb here also. But I mean, the meaning itself is really, it's really absurd. I mean, you can just leave it if you want, but we have 3 clauses. I mean, I want to make this into 2 clauses, preferably. So anyway, like, I mean, meaning aside, just it's really not concise. But anyway, just leave it. In fact, many librarians whose training now. Oh, okay. So now it's this one is modifying librarians, right? And this one is the first sentence, like this. This bit is the first sentence. Teach classes in internet, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's good, right? So, and it's just 1 clause also. So this one, actually, I feel like this is the answer. But let's look at the other answer choices. And now, let's see. Training now includes, okay. No, this one contaminated the meaning. What training? I don't know. You need to say librarian training, right? So I don't know about this. What about the including courses on research and blah, blah, blah in their training is, okay, so it changed the subject is in fact why? It's why? So this one is inferring a causal relationship in internet, blah, 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 teach classes in internet navigation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, so first of all, they loaded the front, right? They changed the subject. So when I'm looking at the passage, I'm looking at those 2 sentences as my golden standard. So I would go with this one, and this one has 1 clause anyway, so B is the right answer here. Let's take a look at 9. Effectively sets up the examples given at the end of the sentence. Okay, so we need to spill over a little bit. Let's take a look. This part is underlined, right? So like this, right? Okay, so this part we need to choose, right? And this part we need to look at, right? So public libraries and librarians are especially valuable, okay? Especially valuable because they offer free resources that may be difficult to find elsewhere, such as help with online job searches as well as resume and job material development. Okay, so I think, okay, so there's a common theme here. Online job development, job searches and research and as well as resume and job material development. It's all career related, right? So these things are all career related, and I don't think that's for no reason, right? So these are all career related. So free career resources, right? Especially valuable because they offer free career resources. That's the part that we want to set up, right? Okay, so let's take a look. A says free to all who utilize, okay, so how does free connect to career? I don't understand, okay? So A is probably not the answer. During periods of economic recession. So this one I think is okay. Why? Because in a recession, everyone's looking for a job, right? I mean, not everyone, but more people are looking for a job. So this is possible. This potentially connects to careers, okay? So although their value cannot be measured. Okay, so how does cannot be measured connect to career? I don't understand. When it comes to the free services, okay, free services, yeah, okay, so were you confused between B and D? Okay, so we talked about this. If we're talking about setting up information, okay, you always need to go with the less general one. You always need to be a little bit more specific, okay? Specificity is better, okay? As long as it doesn't get it, as long as it's not wrong, right? So if it asks you for the best intro to the paragraph, it's better to choose an answer that gives you more specific information, as long as it's still on topic. Usually the harder intro questions or setup questions, you're gonna get rid of 2 answer choices, but these 2 ones, they're both gonna be relevant. But one's gonna be really general in its scale, and the other one's gonna exactly pinpoint the information that's going to follow. So in this case, B is more specific. I mean, this one is way too general. When it comes to the free services libraries provide, yeah, but does that really set up what's going to follow? I mean, it could be anything that follows after this. You know what I mean? Like, it's way too general. So B is the right answer here. 18. Okay, so this one, so when you're combining sentences, what did I say? Can you add, so I mean, right now, do these 2 sentences have a relationship? Like, is the relationship specified in the passage? Is the relationship specified? Guys, is the relationship specified?
No.
Okay. It's not specified, right? Guys, why are you guys not answering this? What's wrong with you guys? What are you doing? What, do you even know what I'm asking? Relationship between 2 sentences. What specifies relationships between 2 sentences? What do you call that thing that specifies a relationship between 2 sentences? What do you call that? No. Guys, what is that? What is it? Huh? Transitions, okay. Like conjunctive adverbs. Write it down, guys, write it down. What are you guys doing? What exactly are you guys studying? Why are you here? What are you doing? What are you guys doing? Honestly. In terms of meaning, what does a subordinating conjunction do? What does a subordinating conjunction do? Yeah.
It modifies the main clause.
It modifies the main clause? What does it mean to modify?
Adding more like detail to it.
Yes. But no, it's subordinating conjunctions don't modify anything. Okay? It's not modifying. It's here we have the subordinate clause, here we have the main clause. Here we have the main clause, here we have the subordinate clause. Right? What does a subordinating conjunction do? It specifies the relationship between the subordinate clause and the main clause, right? If I use although, what kind of relationship does that imply? Okay, not Matthew. What kind of relationship does although specify? Okay, not a contradiction, a contrast, okay? What is wrong with you guys? What? Why? I don't understand. What are you guys doing? Okay, let me ask you again. This is sentence 1. This is sentence 2. Is the relationship between the two sentences specified? Was this a difficult question? Like, what have you been doing for 2 weeks? What have you been doing? What are you doing? Honestly. What? You can't answer that question? That's so stupid. Be ashamed of yourselves. Like, why are you trying to go to college then? Why? Like, what are you doing? Like, starting from 1 p.m. to 4:30, what are you guys doing? Like, what do you guys do exactly? I don't understand. We're going to have a grammar test tomorrow. I'm going to test every single thing, literally everything. If you don't get over 90%, I will immediately give you a refund on this class, okay? And you're not going to be able to come, okay? I'm going to test everything. It's not going to be a problem-solving thing. It's just what we talked about, okay? All right. So, if the relationship between two sentences is not specified, can we add a relationship? Like, because, I mean, these ones, I feel like they're specifying the relationship. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who does not understand what I'm saying? This one is saying two sentences are in a contrast relationship, right? This one is saying what? What does a colon suggest? Okay, don't answer me, okay? What kind of relationship does a colon suggest? Raise your hand if you don't know. Raise your hand if you don't know. So everybody knows. What kind of relationship is it?
Elaboration.
Okay. So the second part is a detail elaborating on the first part. That's what it's saying, right? So it's a continuation. What about this one? What kind of relationship is this?
Contrast.
Yeah, it's a contrast, okay? So, let me ask you, can you do this or no? Because the relationship is not specified here. Do you see that? Can you do this or no? Okay, so who thinks you can do this? Who thinks you can't? You need to raise your hand. Okay, so I specifically said, okay, this is something I talked about for like 5 minutes when we're doing combining sentence questions. What did I say? Like this is how I don't understand. I just need to repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again. Okay, write it down. You can. Okay? You can add a relationship. Okay? As long as it's right, you can specify a relationship that's not there. Okay, when you're doing a combined sentence question, you can add a relationship. It's okay, okay? As long as it's there, as long as it's correct, correct meaning you use your common sense, you read this sentence, you think about it using common sense. If you think it's a contrast relationship, you can add a but. It's okay, right? Plainer rooms are more sparsely furnished. Okay, so that's our first sentence. Plainer rooms sparsely furnished. Okay, so what does sparsely mean? Yeah. Huh? Yeah, so it's not so cluttered up together, right? Right now this room is not so sparse. The desks are pretty close to each other. But if we were to space out this entire room, get rid of most of the desks, just leave, let's say, 4 desks, it's placed sparsely. Okay? So the planar rooms are sparsely furnished. Okay? So that's our first idea. What about the second part? Their architectural features, furnishing and decorations are just as true to the periods they represent. Okay, so they represent the periods pretty well. That's what it's saying, right? So the features represent the periods pretty well. That's the second idea. Okay? So I think about the relationship between the two sentences. Do you think it can be a continuation?
Yes.
It can potentially be a continuation, right? But we need to be careful because can the second part be a detail sentence supporting the first sentence?
Yes.
No. Okay? Detail sentence means what? They're elaborating on the exact same thing. Is the second part talking about how they're sparsely furnished? Okay, so it can't be a detail. Okay, if you don't understand what a detail is by now, what are you doing? Guys, you guys, I don't believe it, honestly. All right. So can this be a detail?
No.
Is this elaborating on sparsely furnished?
No.
Talking about the features, is that elaborating on sparsely furnished?
No.
No. But can it be some kind of other continuation? If I just say likewise or something like that. Yes, because it's still talking about the rooms, so it's okay. Okay, so continuation is okay. Can it be a contrast? Can it be a contrast? Okay, well, first of all, then let's do this. Can it be a cause and effect? Doesn't really matter because we don't have any cause and effects, but can it be a cause and effect? No. Sparsely furnished because their features represent the periods? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so not a cause and effect. What about a contrast then? Okay, so you need to think about contrast in very loose terms. If I use a but, right? Just try using a but, for example, okay? It's sparsely furnished, but they represent the periods pretty well. Is that okay? That is okay. Why would that not be okay? Even if it's sparsely furnished, it represents the periods pretty well, right? Despite the fact that it's sparsely furnished, right? We don't have much in that room, but still they represent the period pretty well. Do you see that? So a contrast is also possible, okay? So those are my options, okay? So take a look at A. So, I mean, I just want to get rid of some of the answer choices here. What am I going to get rid of? So I'm looking at B, C, D. There's one that I can get rid of here.
D.
Okay, it's C. So I just want to look at this. I said it's not detail, right? But what does a colon say? It's a detail, right? Whatever follows a colon is going to be detail, meaning whatever follows after a colon would need to elaborate on sparsely furnished. It would have to say, you know, like there's 10 meters between each furniture, blah, blah, blah. What's the difference between whereas and but? What does whereas mean?
It's kind of like on the other hand.
Yes, it's exactly like on the other hand, right? It means on the other hand, okay? So, is it talking about two sides to an issue?
No.
No. Okay? So can we say whereas? No, we can't. But we can say but. So this is okay. But what does A suggest? Furnished by their features? No, it changes the meaning completely. So that's why it's B. Okay? So that's what it's trying to test, okay? So can you see that relationship or no? It's not so much based on grammar, this question. It's based more on the relationship, you figuring out the relationship, okay? Okay, so here, take a look. I overheard a visitor's remark. So here, okay, this remark is used as a noun. Do you see that? Since this is a possessive, yeah, okay? You can say that. You can say that, you can use remark as a noun, but what about B, C, and D here? If you take a look here, okay? Visitor remark, right? So this is a verb. This is also a verb. This is, used as a verb. This thing as a whole, technically it's not a verb, but it's still used as a verb, right? Okay. Well, first of all, I'm just going to get rid of A and B, okay? Why? Because where's the underlined portion? Is all underlined?
No.
Okay. Then I'm just going to get rid of A and B, right? Since these are talking about plural ones, okay? So I got rid of A and B. And then this one now, what's the issue? This one is in the past tense and this one is in the present tense, okay? So you already used the past tense. I heard her talk. You say I heard her talk. You don't say I heard her talked. You know what I mean, right? So you don't need to use the past tense. You can just stay in the present tense. So D. Okay, so it's asking about paragraph 2. So these are going to happen from time to time, the paragraph order, okay? What I would suggest you to do when you're doing paragraph orders, you should focus on, so you're going to look at the paragraph in question and you're going to look at the first sentence and you're going to look at the last sentence for certain hints, okay? And those hints could be, like pronouns, compressive nouns, transitions, or comparisons, anything like that, okay? If you don't have any of the hints, then you need to think about the meaning itself, okay? All right, so I'm just gonna take a look at paragraph 2, right? So in the beginning, it says, viewing the exhibit, I was amazed by the intricate details of some of the more ornately decorated rooms. Okay, so it's talking, well, first of all, the exhibit is one hint, right? Why is that a hint? Because I need to introduce what the exhibit is before paragraph 2, right? So that needs to be the case. And then, okay, so now this paragraph is talking about this, right? And then these are all details supporting this, right? It's talking about the more ornately decorated rooms, and it goes on and on. And then that's the end, right? Okay, so let's take but now what you need to do is you go back to the question and you look at each, like all the other paragraphs, okay? Check the other paragraphs because right now we don't have any hints except this, right? The one that we found, right? The exhibit, right? We just know the fact that the exhibit needs to be mentioned somewhere before this, right? If you check all the other paragraphs, you will come across paragraph 4. And how does paragraph 4 start? The plainer rooms are more sparsely furnished. Okay, so here is a comparison, right? So you need to actually think about this. Well, obviously he's saying something is more sparsely furnished than something, right? So you should think about that. So try putting paragraph 2 before paragraph 4, right? Before paragraph 4 meaning after paragraph 3, okay? So try all these answers, okay? So if you do that, then it's gonna flow pretty well, okay? First, he's gonna be talking about the ornately decorated rooms, and then he says, if you move on to the more sparsely furnished rooms, blah, 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 okay? So that's why it's B. Okay, 24, right? Okay, I'm not gonna do 24. Okay, don't chart. Okay, I'm not gonna do questions like this. Okay, I mean, like, okay, if you're being because okay, you're being really careless. If you're confused with graph questions, like you're just not reading. You're just not reading. You're just giving up or something like that. You just need to look at the sentence in question, and you just need to look at the graph and just do it. Okay. So graph questions, there's no reason to get wrong or confused. Okay. Okay, 34. All right, so we actually talked about this in great detail, right? If we have a preposition which, right? Okay. Okay, so we didn't talk about this, I guess. Okay, so this is probably why you were confused. Okay, so what does whereby mean? Whereby means by which. Okay. Literally, it's the same thing, okay? So, what are we going to do? So, if we have a preposition which, what does this do? So, we have a noun before this, okay? And then what do we have after a preposition plus which? What do we have? Okay, subject and a verb. So, how do I determine the preposition? Yeah.
You gotta read from the end to the first, and if it makes sense with the preposition, then it's good.
So tell me how. Yes.
The verb.
Huh?
Like, look at the verb.
Okay, you just this. Okay? Yes? Right? I mean, we would need to include this whole thing though. You can't just say products are at a practice. No, you can't say that. You need to say products are designed at a practice, or products are designed from a practice. Products are designed by a practice. Okay? So this is a methodology, right? So they do it using this, so by, right? That's why it's D. Okay, so 42 is asking for the sentence order. Sentence 5. Since, okay, let's take a look. I'm just going to look at sentence 5 first, see if I have any hints. Since the inaugural repair cafe, others have been hosted. Okay, so I don't see any hints, right? But we need to have the inaugural repair cafe mentioned sometime before this. That's the thing I do need to have, okay? So then let's take a look, okay? More like a fair than an actual cafe, the first repair cafe took place in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, okay? So let's talk about this, right? So that's sentence number 1. And then sentence number 2 says, it was the brainchild of former journalist MP wanting to take a practical stand in, okay, brainchild of MP. Her goals were straightforward: reduce waste, maintain blah, 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 her goals, right? And it talks about her goals. Participants bring all manner of damaged articles to be repaired by a staff of volunteer specialists, including tailors, electricians, and carpenters. Okay, so they bring this. Okay. And then we have this. And then sentence 6. While they await for service, patrons can, well, okay, when they wait, enjoy coffee and snacks. I'll just do that. Okay, others have been hosted in theater, blah, 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 right? Okay, so this one, where do you think it will go? Okay, so if you seem kind of lost, what are our options? Like if you just don't have anything that sticks out to you, just try it. If that, you know, if you're stuck, okay? So if you leave it here, what is it doing? Okay, so the first thing that you should check, is it interrupting anything, right? Is it interrupting anything, meaning shouldn't sentence 4 and 6 be together? You need to ask yourself that question, okay? So what's sentence 4 talking about? It's talking about participants at in a repair cafe, what people usually do, like, right? So in a repair cafe, what usually happens is participants bring all their damaged articles and they can enjoy coffee while they wait. Oh, it seems like it should not be interrupted, right? We don't need to talk about other repair cafes, right? So A is not the answer. What about B? Before sentence 1, you can't do that because at least we need to mention the first repair cafe first, right? Before we say the inaugural repair cafe, right? So at least we need to introduce it first. That's why B cannot be the answer. What about C? After sentence 3, okay? So this one is talking about her goals, and before we talk about what usually happens at a repair cafe, we mention, oh, there's been others. I think this one can, like, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it can work. It can go by. What about after sentence 6? So if we do this in after sentence 6, while they wait for service, blah, 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 and can do this. So, okay, so now, okay, I can see why you would be confused with this about between C and D. But you need to think about this, okay? So, for sentence 4 and 6, this is not just talking about the first repair cafe. It's just talking about repair cafes in general. What goes on in repair cafes in general. So you would need to say, there's been others. And then usually what happens in a repair cafe, like a regular repair cafe, usually participants do this. It's not just talking about this inaugural repair cafe. It's talking about others also. So if you're debating between these two, you should have come to that conclusion. Okay, so this one is a bit tricky. Okay, so C is right. Okay, so other questions. Other questions? '21. Okay, let's take a look at 21. Okay, what kind of question is this?
Modify.
Yeah, okay. So that, I can't tell you how to come to that conclusion, except, I did give you this, right? If you can't identify a question type, right? This was on the quiz also, right? What are the 3 types? Okay, yeah. So do the redundancy one last, okay? That's good. Okay, so here, I can figure that out pretty quick. Why? Because it's a verb ed, and then it's a front modifier here. If I just look at A, it's like, oh, another visitor can't be dotted with pin-sized knobs, right? You're not, like, a visitor is not gonna have knobs on him. You know what I mean? So I can recognize that, oh, it's a modifier question, okay? So that could be a good hint, okay? Front modifiers are pretty easy to spot, right? So now I know it's a modifier question. So let's take a look at the answers. So A is obviously wrong. You can work with that also. We eliminated A because we told ourselves another visitor cannot be dotted with pin-sized knobs, right? Okay, then same for other answer choices, right? There's possibly other answer choices that are gonna be modifying another visitor with dotted with pin-sized knobs, which this one does. So no, we're not talking about another visitor dotted with pin-sized knobs. Knobs on a visitor, come on. No, right? C, another again, right? What about D? Another visitor noticed my fascination with the tiny writing desk and its drawers dotted with pin-sized knobs. Okay, so this one is a back modifier, but this one, if it's a back modifier, it gives us the liberty to determine what it's modifying. Then in that case, it would be the drawers, right? So this one is okay. The other ones don't give us any choices, right? If we do this is just going to modify whatever comes before this. This one isn't a positive, so it's just supporting, it's just modifying whatever comes before this, right? My dad, a professor at SNU, teaches, right? A professor at SNU, that's going to modify the noun that comes before it if you interrupt the sentence within a positive. So ABC wrong, right? Okay, so another one. Anything else? Okay. Guys, don't half-ass stuff. Just, sit down and do what you have to do. Okay? Like you can't be forgetting everything. Don't. No, this is literally something that happened last year. So last year, you get one question wrong on the writing section, that's 30 points. Okay? What does that mean? Who here is a US citizen? Okay, so only 2 people who have US citizenship. Okay? So for those of you who aren't US citizenship, you don't, if you don't have US citizenship, 30 points can mean a different school. One writing question that's going to make or break your college decision, potentially. 2 questions, yeah, for sure. Just because you didn't memorize a transition, you might be rejected from the school that you want to go to. Literally, that's what happened. Literally. 2 questions, you're gone. Bye Cornell. Bye early decision. No, you like how else do I need to put it? And you guys still don't memorize all of them. Like we do a review test, we do like a grammar test. You still don't memorize that. Page 52 to 54. Like what do I need to do to make you guys do this? Is it because like you guys have a lot of time left? I guess that's what it is. Is it because you guys have too much time? Like say for the math section though, if you get 1 or 2 wrong on the math section and 1 or 2 wrong on the writing section, that's a different school. I mean, I'm not saying like you need to go to an Ivy League school. I'm not saying you need to go to a top tier school, but if you want to go to that school and you get rejected because you didn't memorize a bunch of transitions and some vocabulary, wouldn't that be distressing? Like you can't even try again. Like Korean students, they can try again, right? If you fail the 수능, you can try again. You guys know about that? You guys can't. It's not a possibility. They don't let you do that. I mean, you can, but you won't get into any good schools if you do that. If you try again, it's just not an option. Then you're just going to I talked about didn't I talk about this before? If you guys, okay, let's say so say you guys have a dream school, okay? You guys made up your mind, okay? So let's say you want to go to Cornell, okay? Right? I don't know why you would choose Cornell over Northwestern, but for some reason, let's say your dream school is Cornell. You made up your mind that Cornell is your dream school. Then you have a duty to do it. You need to do it, okay? Why? Because, okay, so this is like the first important goal that you guys had in your life, right? Like going to a college of your choice, isn't it? Like, did you guys ever make a bigger decision, or was there something more important in your lives before this? This is probably the most important thing you guys are facing up to this point in your life, right? So you made that decision. Let's say you made that decision, but you ended up with the 1200. Okay. Okay. Like, I mean, you wanted to go to Cornell, but you ended up with this, and then you ended up going to Michigan State University. I'm not saying it's a bad school. By the way, it's a really good school. Like, I mean, but it's easy to get in, score-wise. So that's why I'm saying. Okay, so you went to Michigan State University. Like but for at least 4 or 5 years. So at least for your early 20s, you're gonna have that failure lingering in your head. Just because you had this goal, okay? So either get rid of this goal or do it. You need to do it, okay? If you did try hard though, if you did your best, right? If you did your best, you won't regret it, at least, okay? So this is coming from my experience, by the way. If you tried your hard and you failed, you will not regret it. I mean, I guarantee. But if you know for a fact that when you could have given yourself, like given your 100%, you just gave your 80%, okay? There is that gap. And you know that you didn't try your best. And if that happens and you go to MSU because you didn't study instead of Cornell and you never achieved this dream, that failure is going to dictate the early part of your 20s. It's always going to be there, okay? Well, you know, a lot of people in the States, they go to Michigan State University. Yeah, you know, like most of the people who go to Michigan State University, like those white kids, they never thought of Cornell in the first place. They never had that goal. So it doesn't really apply to them. Like for some, like a lot of them, their goal was to go to Michigan State University, you know? Like, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, you know, usually people in the States, they like, you know, except for like a small percentage of people, most people don't have high goals like you guys do. I don't know how high of a goal you guys have. But for schools, you're cursed if you have a goal, okay? If you have a goal in mind, okay, you need to kind of follow that up. I'm not saying go again. Don't get me wrong, okay? It's kind of like Abraham Lincoln, right? Let me not be misunderstood, right? Do not misunderstand me. I'm not saying schools, the name of the school, like the prestige, it's important, okay? It's actually a lot less important than you think. But it's more so about you trying and not achieving that, or, you know, not even trying. That's even worse, okay? Honestly, okay? Trust me. If you don't try, you will be a failure for at least 4 or 5 years, like in college. That thought's never gonna leave your head. I mean, or you know, on the other hand, you can just kind of numb yourself. You can kind of numb yourself, and you just kind of, you can take like an escapist attitude and do drugs and gambling, like whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, not fine, but you know, you can. That's another possibility. Like, if you have a hard time confronting that you never tried. A lot of people also do that. They try to numb themselves with that. A lot of Korean kids, actually. A lot of Korean kids who go to state schools, I don't know if I'm not saying it's a causal relationship. Okay, it's just a correlation. A lot of Korean international school students, like they mess up a lot. in a lot of different ways if they go to state school. And I would say the primary reason is the disappointment that you get when you get rejected from every school that you apply to. This happens a lot, by the way. You get rejected from every school except your safety school. Happens to a lot of people, actually. And that damage, like you have it, like what you're thinking is, that's not gonna happen. Like usually people, they don't study for the SAT. Like they get mediocre scores, but they're like, it's a holistic review process. They said it's a holistic review. I know, maybe I'll get accepted from, one of my target schools. I feel like I'm gonna get accepted, and then they get rejected from everywhere. Then that hits you. That gets in your head, and then that ruins your college years. Just I don't want that happening. Okay, I mean that's different. Everybody's goal is different, by the way. You know that, right? Like, I'm not saying you need to go to a certain school. I'm saying you need to set goals and you need to strive to achieve that, and then you need to kind of at least achieve that, or at least try to. Okay. So, that's why you guys need to study. Okay. Who cares? Who cares about conjunctions and whatever anyway? Google corrects all of that for you. Yeah, but still, you need to do it. You know what I mean, right? Because you have a goal. Okay. All right. So take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll go over that that test you guys did. We didn't do a passage on that test. I don't like that question. Because that question means if there's a test, I will study for it. But if there's not a test, I won't study.
I'm just
Right?
asking.
No, just so the reason why you're asking would be that, right?
I guess.
Okay, I won't do the grammar test. I won't do the grammar test, but because it feels like it would be, I don't know, too hard on you guys, I guess. But do review everything for your own sake, okay? So, I mean, I won't tell you guys what to do now then. I won't tell you guys what to do, but we'll take tests, okay? We'll take tests, so, but you should know what you don't know and what you know, right? You know what I mean, right? Like if you don't trick yourself into thinking you know everything, like especially when it comes to grammar. And math also. Math's actually pretty big. A lot of you think you know everything, but you always make mistakes. Mistakes. They're not mistakes, actually. You know what I'm saying, right? Okay, let's take a look at this passage. Let's take a look at the 5th passage. We did everything except this passage, right? Okay, so let's take a look. It says gut bugs may boost flu shots effects. Okay, so what am I going to do? GB and then flu shot effect, something like this, right? See what I did? Right, so this pretty much sums it up, right? Okay, so what do we have? Feel like this is some kind of significance, isn't it? So what do we have? So at least, you know, this is exactly what we talked about yesterday. So we're in the very beginning, they're going to give us this this significance. Like right off the bat, they give us this significance, and then they talk about what? How they got to this conclusion, right? Yes? So this is one possibility, but what's another possibility if they have something else? Well, then they're going to dedicate like some portion of the passage to explaining this. And then after that, we're going to have some kind of transition. We're going to go in a new direction, right? Can say something like, okay, you know, but how does it do this? What's the mechanism behind this? And then they explain that in depth or something like that. Or they can say, you know, they can discuss some other aspect, like all of a sudden. They can elaborate on this, for example. Like, I don't know what it is. The possibilities are limitless. So I'm just looking for a part where there's potentially a transition in the middle. But for now, I'm going to focus on this. For now, my focus is here. I just want to see where this ends, if it ends at all, right? This is extremely important. You guys get it, right? Who does not understand this? Who does not understand what I'm saying? It's fine. I just want to explain it again. Who does not understand this? Okay, good. Let's take a look. Every year, some unlucky people get the flu even though they've had their seasonal shot. Okay, so this is probably just background, right? I don't care that much about this sentence. I know it's eventually going to get to here, right? Eventually it's going to get to here. One reason, according to a new study. Okay, so one reason. So one reason for what? Unlucky people getting the flu even though they had the seasonal shot, right? I mean, that's it's kind of sad. You pay for the shot and then you get the flu also, right? Well, anyway, regardless of the fact that they got a shot, they still get contracted. And then it says, one reason according to a new study, here we go, might be their gut bacteria. Okay. Okay. So it just mentioned it briefly, but they mentioned the significance. We're kind of touching upon this, what we have in our title, right? Researchers have shown that at least in mice, a strong immune response to the flu vaccine relies in part on signals from intestinal microbes. Okay, so I'm just going to say IMs, right? I don't want to overly complicate things. I don't want to get confused with these vocabulary and stuff like that, right? So what did researchers demonstrate? The strong immune response to the flu vaccine relies on signal from this. Okay, so these two things are correlated. I'm just going to say they have a correlation, right? Just leave it at that, right? These two things have a relationship, right? Okay, there we go. And then it says the findings could help explain variation in the response to the vaccine and suggest way to maximize its effectiveness. Okay, so this is an implication. You guys see this? That it's an implication. It's explaining us. Okay, so when it comes to implication, I know I asked you guys this on the review test also, right? What's an implication? You know, it's a common way to end a passage usually when it discusses implication. Okay, important keyword for implication is importance and relevance. Okay, so it's talking about science-y things. Okay, that might not seem relevant to you, you know? Usually that's what happens when you read a science article. The reason why you guys think it's so boring when you read a science article is because, you know, like, okay, so what? You know, it really doesn't have any impact on my life. I've never experienced these kinds of things, right? But they would be tying in the relevance and or they would be explaining how important this thing is, right? So here it's doing that, right? I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying they both need to be present. I'm saying it can be either or it could be both, right? Anyway, so this is the implication, right? It could help explain variation in the response to the vaccine and suggest ways to maximize its effectiveness, right? Okay, so it's just, so this is the first paragraph. It's saying this is variation in the response. This is rephrased to this, right? I mean, unlucky people getting the flu, even though they've had their shot, is rephrased into the variation in the response. You see that, right? So that's the first thing that it mentions. Okay, so there's some kind of variation, you know? Some people get the flu even though they got the shot, right? Why is this the case? And then it says, a new study, right? A new study suggests what? It has to do with gut bacteria, right? Has to do with gut bacteria, and then it says the immune response, right? This is just kind of elaborating on that probably, right? So the immune response is related to what? Intestinal microbes. So I guess these two things, I don't know how they're exactly related, but anyway, and then they discuss the implication. But what are we going to get at tentatively? At least this, right? At least this, right? Gut bugs, so gut bacteria, probably they're going to make the flu shots more effective, okay? And then it says, the new evidence came out of a curious observation. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Curious observation that researchers revealed in a 2011 paper. So this is the person who's leading the study, right? An immunologist at Emory University in Atlanta and colleagues were looking for genetic signatures in the blood of people injected with the trivalent inactivated influenza vaccine. So it's easy to get intimidated by this, right? So what should you do? Just, you know, like use an acronym or something like that, right? Just say it's TI or whatever, right? TI. Let's just say TI vaccine. Right? So they wanted to know, so this is, I guess this is kind of their motivation, right? Whether the expression of specific genes in the immune system's white blood cells correlated with the amount of vaccine-specific antibodies. Okay, so they wanted to find out whether there was a correlation, right? White blood cells, vaccine-specific antibodies, was there some kind of correlation? That's what they were curious about, right? Which indicates how strongly a person's immune system. So, okay, so what is this? This is the definition for the vaccine-specific antibody. Do you see that? How strongly a person's immune system responds to the shot and how much protection that person will get. Okay, so this is, I guess, what causes the actual effectiveness of the shot, right? You know, like how in the beginning it said some people don't get the don't get the flu, and some people do get the flu. So that probably has to do with the antibodies. Right? In a long list of genes associated with strong vaccine response, the researchers found an unexpected one. Okay, so here's the results. Right, the gene that codes for a protein called what in the world is this? TLR5. Okay, so our result is simple, TLR5, right? They just looked at it and saw TLR5. Okay, so it's easy to feel lost. So you read this paragraph and you see all these technical terms. It's easy to be scared, it's easy to be lost. But don't worry about it. Why? Because eventually we're just going to get at this. You see this? Eventually, we're just going to get at this. Well, we still didn't get here, right? That's so that's what I'm looking for right now. We only discussed the result here. So this is probably going to connect somehow they're going to explain this and say, okay, you know, what this discovery of TLR5 means is that, you know, gut bugs actually boost the flu shot's effects or something like that. Okay, so let's go. And then it says, we thought this might just be a coincidence, says this guy. Is a sensor, okay, it's just defining things, right? I mean, it's easy. It's easy to get so lost here, right? You see how it is? Like right now, you should be looking for the significance. You know what I mean? That should be your main agenda, but they're not giving you that right away, right? They're just kind of like defining things for you, and you're not supposed to understand these because you don't have any background knowledge. Like it's a sensor of F, a protein that makes up the appendages of bacteria. So you're just like, what in the world does this mean? But you know, does it really matter? No, right? Okay, so let's go. Why would a receptor that interacts with bacteria in the gut have anything to do with the body's response, blah, blah, blah? Okay, so they asked this over a question. So they're saying, okay, so how does this connect to the significance, right? How does this connect to the significance? Maybe the group thought B cells, okay, so this is the significance, right? It says the group thought, right? B cells receive a signal from bacteria that boosts their activity. Okay. So I don't know how they got to this conclusion, and I don't even care, right? So what's our result? They found this, TLR5, right? And then based on that, what did they say? They said, you know, I think B cells receive a signal from the bacteria, and then that boosts their activity, right? So this is the significance that I've been kind of expecting from the beginning, right? So I think I got this now. So now is the time to be more careful. Why? Because it can take a turn, the passage itself. Now we can transition into something else. Okay, so it says to explore that possibility. Okay, so here's where it's going, right? To explore that possibility, right? So what are they trying to do? They're just trying to test that significance, right? They came up with that and they're like, okay, let's actually test it. The researchers designed a new study using mice, all right? So should we read this or no? It's up to you, okay? Depending on how much time you left and everything, right? It really depends on the situation, but why don't we try, okay, since we always skip them, why don't we try reading them? But we're not gonna read so thoroughly, okay? I mean, you can skip it, it's fine, right? But still, I'm just going to kind of like skim over this, okay? So they had 3 different groups, and then mice engineered to lack the gene, so they didn't have TLR5, and then germ-free mice from blah blah blah, and mice that had spent 4 weeks drinking. Okay, so just three groups, right? 3 different groups, and then it says 7 days after, all 3 groups show significantly reduced concentration. Okay, so this is result 1, right? I'm ready for a lot of results because there's 3 different groups, first of all, right? And it says it specified 7 days after vaccination, so they're probably going to say like 7 days after that, and then I don't know. What did they say? Like 14 days after that, 21 days after that, that kind of thing, right? So let's take a look. So 7 days after, what happened? Reduced concentrations of antibodies. So they all had reduced antibodies, okay, compared with vaccinated control mice. All right. So I have that result, right? I have that result. I'm not so worried about understanding this. It's just a result, right? In the end, they're gonna get at something, right? But I know what that something is. Like it's this, right? This thing, right? They're probably gonna just test this. But anyway, because like when we first introduced this study, this is why they're talking about the study in the first place, right? It's to explore that possibility. Well, anyway, and then it says the reduction was less marked by day 28, but when the researcher observed the mice lacking blah, 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 their antibodies seem to have dipped again, suggesting that, okay, so here now you need to know. Without this bacterial signaling, the effects of the flu vaccine wane more quickly. Okay, so you do need to know what wane means. I guess you can kind of guess using the context, but what does wane mean? It's quite an important vocabulary. Pretty high frequency, yeah.
It's like,
No, it's not like but yeah. Yes. Diminish, right? What's a similar word to wane? Diminish, reduce, deduct? No, it's kind of, deduct is kind of different. Dwindle. Okay, so let's take a look here. So without this bacterial signaling, the effects of the flu vaccine wane more quickly. All right, so if you say something without, okay, I mean, you guys heard enough love songs, right? So let's think about this. Let's think about the word without. Without A, B. Without you, I would die. Yeah. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Because it's a sufficient necessary condition. Okay, it doesn't look like it, but so without you, I would die means in order for me to live, I need you, right? It's saying it's a necessary condition, but you negate it anyway. So anyway, my thing is this. It's saying that it's without A, B would happen. And if this is undesirable, and right? It's saying you need this, right? So here, same thing. Without this bacterial signaling, the effects of the flu vaccine wane more quickly. Do we want the effects of the vaccine to wane? No, right? So in order for the vaccine to work properly, right? What is it saying? We need bacterial signaling. Right? That's how to take without in, right? That's how you should understand it. So let's take a look. The researchers saw similar results when they gave mice a polio vaccine. Okay, so all right, so I know what's going to happen. Similar results. Okay, so polio vaccine, which like the flu shot uses an inactivated virus and doesn't contain so-called blah, I don't care, whatever, adjuvants, like, so, you know, like all these things, they're there to just like confuse the heck out of you, You know what I mean? Okay. So P and colleagues suggest that these weaker adjuvant-lacking vaccines, okay, so it's a suggest, so that's why I'm reading this, right? More heavily on bacterial signaling. Okay, so if you're weaker and you don't have something called an adjuvant, you rely more heavily on BS, right? Okay, not bullshit, but BS, right? The bacterial signaling. This we were talking about, right? What were we saying? We were saying, oh, it's necessary, right? Necessary. Bacterial signaling is necessary. The same results with the live virus in the yellow fever. Okay, so there. Okay, so no specific type of bacteria seemed more important. Okay, so no specific type of bacteria. So, I mean, we have different kinds of bacteria. We're talking about bacteria signaling, so that's why we're talking about bacteria, right? So it's not like any particular bacteria was more important, right? They're saying they're all similar. Another in prompting the vaccine response. But further experiments showed a major role for M's. Okay, what are these? Immune cells, that blah, 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 and that can also blah, blah, blah. All right, so definition. We know how important definitions are, right? Because we can potentially use them in the answer choices. So you just need to know how to find them later on. But, you know, you don't need to necessarily rate it when you're reading it, right? P's favored explanation, okay, so P's explanation is that F managed to break through the lining of the intestines to circulate in the body, activate B cells, blah, 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 amping up antibody, blah. Oh, wow, that's kind of a mess. Okay, so I'll just say this is his explanation. His explanation as to why this is the case, right? But anyway, but where and how the interaction happens is a huge mystery. Oh, okay. So it's kind of like an incomplete, right? So this ending is an incomplete ending. They're saying, okay, we still don't have all the answers. Good? Okay, so it might seem like a mess a little bit, but not really. We don't have much in this passage if you think about it. Okay, so let's go back to the passage. I'm just going to, so if you read a pretty complicated passage like this, what you want to do after you finish reading is you want to go back to the passage, spend like 15 or 20 seconds just looking at the passage. I'm not saying read, but look at all the things that you've annotated, right? And just get the gist of it. Right? So the first thing that they said was, you know, it's why the variation happens. So it's just kind of introducing the topic in retrospect, if you think about it, right? Because eventually what they want to get at is this, right? Bacterial signaling has an effect, right? You need bacterial signaling in order for the vaccine to work, right? And then they take a look here. And then it talks about what they wanted to know, blah, blah, blah. And then they got to a certain result, right? This certain result hinted at this, right? Hinted at this. But this was their, at least initially, I guess, this was kind of like their hypothesis, their guess, right? And then what did they get at? They said they did a new study, right? They did a new study, and then they did this mice study, and then after all, what did they come down to? This significance, right? So without this bacterial signaling, you need BS in order for the flu vaccine to work well, okay? That they said, and then, you know, talked about these kinds of things. I mean, different things, right? You know, like adjuvants, without adjuvants, blah, blah, blah. Weaker adjuvant lacking vaccines, they will need bacterial signaling better. And then this is kind of like the conclusion where it ends with an incomplete, right? Okay, so let's go to, I'm not going to take a look at the graphs just yet. Okay, I don't want to confuse myself. Okay, you should do that also. Okay, I mean, sometimes the graphs and the passage, they contradict one another. Sometimes it happens. So don't look at the graph right after you read the passage. Just solve the questions first. Okay, so so primary purpose of the passage. Okay, so primary purpose. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to say, okay, so there wasn't like a clean structure, right? You know, one of those top-heavy passages that we did before, where we have the clean-cut directions and this clean-cut question, that kind of thing. But I know that it's going to, I know the subject matter pretty well, right? rather than multiple studies. I feel like the structure, I mean, not the structure, but what the passage is talking about is they did a lot of experiments and they got to the conclusion that bacterial signaling, right? This is actually necessary in order for them to make the flu vaccine work. Okay, so discuss research on a factor that influences, what would that factor be? BS, right? So this is okay. See that? Okay, what about B? Describe how vaccines are tested for safety. Well, are we talking about vaccine safety? No, not at all. This is totally irrelevant. Present a study of the role of bacteria. Okay, so I mean, this was good up till here, right? Role of bacteria. Oh, you know, they signal, you know, they send a signal, and then that affects the vaccine and whatever. But it's not in causing illness. It's about the vaccine's effectiveness, right? So not this. D. Analyze the genetic. Come on. Do you know the genetic components of the flu virus? I didn't even read those, right? I mean, was it even there? I don't even remember. This is totally irrelevant. So A would be the right answer. Okay, and then it says in the second paragraph, author uses the word curious and unexpected primarily to. Okay, so well, okay, the purpose questions. So one of the most common purpose questions in science passages is this. They ask you something that's trying to convey a casual tone. What do I mean by this? So they, you know. I don't know, I can't think of an example, but they would use like really colloquial English, like in the beginning of a science passage. You see this a lot in your SAT essays also. Why would somebody use colloquial language in the beginning of a science passage? Because they know science is so boring, okay? They want to spice things up a little bit. They want to catch your attention, kind of thing. They ask you this a lot, actually. I mean, not a lot, but relatively speaking, like this is frequently this occurs a lot, actually. Happens pretty often. Like they're gonna give you like, oh, the author uses the word LOL and ruffle in order to, and then you say, okay, to convey like a casual tone and instill a sense of humor and grab the reader's attention or something like that, right? What's another option? Okay, so another thing is the tentative tone. That's pretty common. What does tentative mean? Yeah.
So a little to change.
So it's not set in stone, right? So if I say, okay, so if I'm making an appointment with you, and I tell you, hey, can we tentatively set the date for like Monday or whatever? I'm saying it can potentially change. But for now, let's say we're meeting on Monday, right? That's what tentative means, okay? So how would you convey a tentative tone? Like with words, like might, right? If you say might or like could, may, you know, all these words, there's words that suggest this uncertainty, right? That introduces this element of uncertainty. So if the author uses those, and if they ask you directly, if they, instead of curious here, if they ask you, oh, why would he use could and might? You say, okay, because you know he thinks it's inconclusive and he wants to convey a tentative tone rather than a certain one, right? See that? Okay, what about this though? This one is actually not something that would show up pretty often, right? And it's one of a kind, actually. So what do we need to do? So we're going to say, okay, so these are our potential goals, right? So for those of you who came to the history thing yesterday, I think we talked about this. When it comes to purpose, how are you going to solve purpose questions? You're going to imagine that this is the goal. You're going to assume that this is the writer's goal, right? when you're reading an answer choice, you're going to assume that this is the author's goal, but at the same time, would that justify the use of these two words? Okay. So assume this is the author's goal. Would it make sense to use these two words? And does that help in achieving the author's goal? Okay, sounds a little bit hard. You guys get that? Or, okay, who did not understand what I just said? Okay, when you're looking at so this is a purpose question, right? Why would the author use these words, right? So what you need to do is your mindset should be like this. These are his potential goals, right? These are the ends that he wants to meet, right? Do you understand that? Since it's asking for the purpose, right? These are his purposes. These are his goals, right? What I want you to do when you're reading the answer choice is, when you're reading A, assume that A is his goal. Did you understand that? Assume that A is his goal. Did you understand that? Did you guys, there's no reason for you not to understand that, right? Assume that A is the goal and then ask yourself this question. Would that justify the choice of using these two words? If this is his goal, would that justify his choice of these two words? Does that make that goal happen? I mean, that's what you guys should have been doing, like unconsciously anyway, right? You assume this is his goal, and then you ask yourself, okay, does that justify the means, right? All right, so let's take a look. So curious and unexpected. Did not anticipate. That sounds actually pretty good, right? If you didn't anticipate something, you could say something is curious and unexpected, right? You would use these words if you want to convey the fact that you did not anticipate something, right? So this is something burning inside your heart that you want to convey to the readers, right? Then you would use words like these, right? I don't know what's going to follow after this, but I'm just going to leave this for now. Assume that the gene coding for TLR5 would not be found. Well, if you had a certain assumption, why would you use the word curious? I mean, I don't actually get it. Do you know what I mean? If you want to convey the fact that you had an assumption, would you use the word curious? Does that make any sense? Would you, okay, if you wanted to convey the fact that you're surprised, would you use the word curious or unexpected? Yes, of course, yeah, right? That's what surprise means. Okay, so this one I'm just going to leave. Had previously overlooked. This one's also possible, right? You see what I mean, right? Previously overlooked. So they didn't expect it, right? But I'm not so sure about curious. But anyway, I'm just going to let that go. Anyway, I'm just going to get rid of B though, right? So now let's go back to the passage before we read anything, right? I want to figure out which part this was. So 10 to 26. New evidence came out of a curious observation that researchers revealed. Okay, so new evidence of what? This, right? I mean, no, they didn't actually discuss the significance yet. But anyway, so there was a curious observation, and where do I see unexpected? Curious observation. 25, unexpected one, right? Okay, so this is pretty much the process, we can say, right? So after the process, what did they say? they found an unexpected result. And that unexpected result was TLR5. So what can we say? Well, so our best answer would say something like this. The discovery of TLR5 was really this was really surprising. That's what the right answer would say. We would need to talk about this, right? All right, so let's go to the answer. So A says TLR5 to be so widespread? No, did we talk about it being widespread? We were just surprised by its presence itself, right? It's like, oh, why is this here? It's so unexpected, right? That's what we're thinking. We're surprised to find a link between the expression of the gene coding for TLR5 and relatively high counts of TV antibodies. Okay, so high counts of TV. This means like the vaccine was working. So I'm just gonna say okay for this. But D had previously overlooked the connection between. Okay, so now that I look back on the passage, I know it doesn't have to do anything about overlooking something previously. We don't have a old and new or whatever. So I'm gonna get rid of D. So it's going to be C, right? Okay, before I ask you guys some questions, okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So when you were reading, if you realize that at the very end it ended with an incomplete, right? This becomes so much easier, right? Why? Because we have that. This is the incomplete answer choice, right? We're just choosing this, okay? You're not thinking twice about this. You already identified it as an incomplete. Then you would just choose it, okay? You guys know all the answers for this test, by the way, right? So, okay, do we need to go over any more questions? Okay, so if you have a question on this passage, 47, let's take a look at 47. According to the passage, which statement best explains the hypothesis that they tested? Okay, so the hypothesis that they tested was before that part where it says to explore that possibility, right? Do you know? Did you get to this, right? So whatever that happens before this, right? That's going to be the hypothesis, right? And then they said to explore that possibility, they did a test, right? So our answer is going to be that part here, right? That precedes this part, right? So let's take a look here. Maybe the group thought B cells receive a signal from bacteria. Okay, so let's just write this down. B cells receive signal from bacteria. Okay, but let's also define B cells. What's B cells? White blood cells that produce what? Antibodies. White blood cells that makes antibodies, right? So that's what we have. So now I'm going to go into the answer choice using this. Do you agree that this is the hypothesis? Right? Because it says maybe the group thought, right? So let's go to 47. B cells must receive, okay, B cells must receive, okay, so did you choose A? No? So who chose A? Right. So, no, come on. So it's saying B cells must. So it's saying it's a necessary condition. It's necessary, right? That's strictly something different, right? What does this? It means B cells receive signal from bacteria. I mean, it's just saying this literally, right? B cells receive signal from bacteria. Do you know what I mean? Like, but this one's saying it needs that in order to what? Begin producing vaccine-specific antibodies? It's saying something completely different. It has all the right words in it, but if you think about the meaning, no, all right? You guys know what I mean, right? We're not talking about beginning producing anything. We're not talking about something needs to be the case, right? So not A. What about B? Vaccines containing active viruses. What? What in the world? Must be, what? What is this? What? Okay? So, trying to confuse the heck out of you, right? Because it gives you all these terms that are defined somewhere else in the passage, and you're thinking, okay, what are adjuvants? Okay, what are these? And you know, but you should be pretty set on this. The effectiveness of vaccines. Okay, so I think this is pretty good so far. Effectiveness of vaccines. Why? Because you know, I know that if we get more antibodies, that means the vaccine is working, right? So vaccines at stimulating F activity. Why is it talking about F activity? What in the world is F activity? Now I need to go back and try to define it. But before I do that, I want to go look at the other answer choices first, before I try and go define this. But I know for sure like these are not the answers. What about D? Strength of an immune response following vaccination. Strength of an immune, yeah. I mean similar to C, right? It starts off in a similar way. Effectiveness of vaccines, strength of the immune response, right? So talking about this, is related to the white blood cells detection of the signals from intestinal bacteria. There we go. So D is the answer. Okay, if you guys don't have any more questions, well, any other questions on that test itself? I don't think we went over the questions for the zebra passage, right? Is that okay? That passage was okay? Any questions on the zebra passage? Okay, let's go back to the reading workbook. Wait, okay. Can I take a look at your book for a second? Thanks. No man, volcano, plowing field. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the volcano passage. Second passage, right? All right, so this one, take a look. Source of mysterious medieval eruption identified. Okay, I think I'm done. Right? I just need to know, okay, so they are going to mention that source somewhere, right? They will mention it somewhere, but when I do, same thing, right? What happens if they give it to me like right in the beginning? If they give it to me right in the beginning, I'm just going to tell myself, okay, so when am I gonna start talking about new ideas? When is that big transition gonna come? That's my question. If it doesn't come in the beginning, if it comes in the middle, yeah, you know, that's the passage is going to discuss how they got to that source. And so on. So a lot of different possibilities, but still I can get a good sense of the possible scenarios, right? Okay, so let's take a look. About 750 years ago, powerful volcano erupted somewhere on Earth, kicking off. All right, kicking off. So what am I gonna do? I think I'm gonna do this. Powerful volcano occurred, kicking off a century-long cold snap known as the Little Ice Age. Can I say this? Because since it said kicking off, can I see this as a cause and effect? Yeah? So, yeah. Okay, so powerful volcano caused the Little Ice Age. And we have the definition for the Little Ice Age. What is that? It's a centuries-long cold snap, right? I mean, we all know what an ice age is. Have you guys seen the movie Ice Age? Everybody seen? Who has not seen Ice Age? Oh. Okay. Identifying the volcano responsible has been tricky. Oh, wait. I like this. Why? Because it's a question, right? I mean, I know that we were gonna, I mean, I could have guessed the question just looking at the title, but still it gives us the question in plain terms, right? What does it say? Which volcano caused the Little Ice Age? Basically, that's it, right? It's asking us, okay, which volcano was this? So basically, what caused the Little Ice Age? That's our question, right? So what's our answer going to be? Our answer is going to be really simple. Why? Because it's a what question, right? What caused the Little Ice Age? So I mean, we know it's a volcano, but which volcano is it? That's our question, right? So this is our question. And then, well, okay. I was kind of hoping for a direction sentence, but we just moved on, right? Then what do I need to do? I just need to tell myself, okay, so it's probably going to answer that later, right? It's probably going to just say later on, oh, it's, you know, it's this, or maybe they can say like new research suggests that it's this or something like that. Anyway, I'm just going to keep reading this. What does it say? That a powerful volcano erupted somewhere in the world is written in polar ice cores. Okay, so this is just kind of elaborating on the background, I guess. It's elaborating on this, right? So how do we know that a powerful volcano occurred? We looked at polar ice cores, right? This is our clue, right? Of blah 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 in the form of blah blah blah. Okay, I don't care. This is my definition, right? These cores suggest, okay, so this suggests that the amount of sulfur the mystery volcano sent into the stratosphere put it firmly among the ranks of the strongest climate perturbing eruptions of the current geological epoch. Okay, what's an epoch?
Notable.
Yeah. So, you know, what do we have? We have like years, decades, centuries, millennia, and then we have epochs, like ages, right? So that it's not like for people, right? It's more for like geology, that kind of thing, right? Anyway, so what is this part saying? What is the significance saying? Okay, it put it among the ranks of the strongest climate perturbing eruptions of the current epoch. Why would he mention that? Okay, I saw it this way. This is just strengthening this link, right? They say, yeah, this indeed did cause the Little Ice Age. It did perturb the climate, right? It was the case, right? And then it says, a haze of stratospheric sulfur cools the climate by reflecting solar energy back into space. Okay, so this is just explaining how that happened, right? Do you see? It's explaining how this thing happened. Because if you read this, you have a lot of questions, okay? If you're a curious person, you would think, wait, why would a volcano cause an ice age? Ever think about that? Who thought about that while reading? No one thought about that? You're just like, okay, volcano eruption, automatically that's an ice age. That's what you thought when you're reading? Naturally, that's what happens when a volcano occurs. Volcano eruption, yeah, ice age. Nobody thought about that. Okay, that's literally no one. No one was even curious. It's like, okay, another freaking SAT passage. Just fine. Huh. Okay, but that's, you see why I'm asking that, right? This explains that, right? Because it sends a lot of sulfur into the air, and that cools the climate. Because why? Because then sunlight won't be able to enter, right? Good? Is that important though? No, because I only care about this, right? I only care, like, my concern is, okay, which volcano was it? Okay. So let's take a look. In 2012, a team of scientists led by geochemist GM strengthened the link. All right, so I didn't mean to do that, but anyway. Okay, so GM strengthened the link between the mystery eruption and the onset of the Little Ice Age. So, okay, my first thought is, okay, will this guy answer our question? Okay, will this guy identify the volcano? But at least initially he doesn't do it, right? What does he do? He just says, yeah, this really did happen, right? But that's not what we're curious about. We're curious about what this volcano, which volcano this was. That's our question. So I mean, I don't really care much about this guy. Anyway, he has this whole process, right? Radiocarbon dating, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And then it says that the cold summers and blah, blah, blah began here. Okay, so this is the results that he got, right? And sudden onset, blah, 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 injecting sulfur into the stratosphere, and then cooling, subsequent unusually large, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he's just strengthening the link. He's saying, okay, this paragraph is useless to us. Why? Because it doesn't answer which volcano caused it. What is it saying? It's just, yeah, you know, like it actually did cause the Little Ice Age, right? And then these are time periods and blah, 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 okay? But maybe we're getting somewhere. Maybe we need to use this as a stepping stone in order to get to our conclusion. That's why they mention it, perhaps. Okay, so let's take a look. FL, so now I have a new guy, okay? So what did GM do? He strengthened the link. What about FL? FL and colleagues now think they've identified the volcano in question. There we go. There we go. I think I'm done for now, right? Okay, like my science question is answered now, right? I'm satiated. I'm okay now. I'm satisfied. Where do we go from here, though? Now, apparently, there's more information, right? Now there's some kind of transition within the passage itself, right? We're still halfway through the passage. So now my question is, okay, what's the rest of the passage going to be about? That should be your focus, okay? So now I got the answer. Okay, so this is called IS, Indonesia Somalis. One line of evidence they note is historical records. Okay, so this is how they got to this conclusion, right? Process. According to BL, records of the island, blah, 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 erupted catastrophically between the end of the 13th century, devastating surrounding villages, blah, 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 blah. All right, I don't care. I don't care, all right? So, I mean, this is I don't know, this is the result that they got, but do I care about this? No, okay? Later on, they're going to use this again, right? We talked about this. Do you know what pyroclastic flows are? Not really. Sweeps of hot gas. You know it's hot rock and gas, right? You know that, right? But do you know what it is? Not really, okay? But when you go to the questions, I'm pretty sure they have this. They should. 52. Did someone pick C here? No one? Okay, good. Okay, I guess that's the only time they used it. But anyway, you see my point, right? You don't want to think too much about this. You just what you get is okay. So this is our answer, right? That's what you got, and you're just like, okay. And then we're just explaining the results, how they got to that conclusion. And then it says the researchers then began to reconstruct. Okay, so here's our important transition happening here, right? This is giving us a new direction to the passage, right? So now we're done talking about identifying the volcano in question. Now we're talking about something else. Began to reconstruct the formation of the large 800-meter deep caldera, blah, 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 that now sits. Okay, so I don't know how they reconstructed this. Maybe they did it in a lab. Maybe they did it in their computer. I don't know. I don't care, right? So they did a reconstruction. They examined 130 outcrops on the flanks of the volcano, exposing sequences of blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, well, why are they doing this? Why are we talking about this in the first place? So you need to kind of think about this. Why discuss all this? Okay, so why discuss all this? So you need to come back. I mean. So why don't you come back to this paragraph and take a look here? Okay, so I mean they mentioned the fact that they identified the time frame, right? They said you know, like it erupted before the end of the 13th century and whatnot, right? But how is that going to logically connect to the Indonesia Somalas, right? That still has some kind of gap. So I'm guessing, since it's just still talking about all of these details of the experiment, I'm still kind of guessing, okay, maybe he's still trying to connect the dots, right? Maybe he's still trying to tell us, okay, this is how we got to this conclusion, right? And then it says radiocarbon analysis. So this is also a process. And then what did they conclude? Oh, here we go. Happened before blah, 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 and certainly happened in the 13th century. Okay, so they kind of pinpoint the time, right? Said, okay, so this is the time frame. All right, so let's go. And then it says it's not a total surprise that an Indonesian volcano might be the source of the eruption, Miller says. Okay, so this is actually what Miller says to that. And then he says it's not a surprise. So I would say it's an agree, right? For now, an equatorial eruption is more consistent with the apparent climate impacts. Okay, so he says, yeah, an equatorial eruption is consistent with what we see, right? What is apparent, right? So what can we infer? Thing I can infer is that Indonesian volcano, right? Indonesia Somalis was an equatorial eruption. You see that? Yeah? And he adds, with sulfate appearing in blah, 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 there is a strong consensus that this also supports an equatorial source. So he's saying, yeah, it is indeed an equatorial eruption, right? What does it mean, equatorial? Yeah.
It's near the equator.
Yeah. What's the equator?
Middle of
What?
the horizontal middle.
The line. Yeah. I mean, it's physically closest to the sun, right? That's why it's the hottest region on Earth, right? Like, you guys know what I mean, right? Like, I mean, if you don't know what it means 적도 in Korean, right? You guys know what this is, right? Okay. So Yeah, so probably it's saying, yeah, that's an equatorial eruption, right? I mean, you don't need to know that, by the way. You just need to know, oh, it's whatever equatorial is, I guess Indonesia, Somalia is an equatorial eruption. That's what you need to know. And then it says another possible candidate, both in terms of timing and geographical location, is Ecuador's Q. Wait, what? I thought we were pretty set on IS, right? I thought we were pretty set on IS being the volcano, but what is this saying? It's saying, okay, another possible candidate is EQ. Now, okay, so I guess I need to read this. I need to read what happened. And then it says, but when examined shards, okay, so they had this process, they found that they didn't match the chemical composition of the glass found in polar ice cores. Oh, okay. Whereas the Samalas glass is much closer match. Okay. I mean, this is the results, and then they suggest significance, right? Can it be this apparent, right? So this one is the process, right? This one is the result, and this is the significance. Further strengthens the case that Samalas was responsible. Okay. So in the end, they just rule this out. They just say, okay, another possible candidate is a volcano called EQ, but not really, right? We looked at shards, and it suggested other ways. Okay, so let's go to the question. Main purpose of the passage. Is it to describe periods? No. Okay, so obviously we can get rid of that. Explain the methods. I mean, we did talk about a lot of different methods, but we're not concerned about explaining the methods. What are we big on? We're big on identifying the volcano, right? And how we got to that conclusion is this passage pretty much, right? Describe evidence. Okay, that's possible. We did describe a lot of evidence. And what is this part? Linking the volcano S to the Little Ice Age. Possible, yeah. That's what we had, right? Explain how volcanic glass. What volcanic glass? What in the world is that? Too specific, right? So C is the right answer. Over the course of the passage, the focus shifts from. Okay, so I guess this question. Okay, so this question is irrelevant. You don't need to actually think about. I mean, not 43. I'm saying 44 is kind of irrelevant now. Why is this irrelevant? Because you're not going to get a shift question and a line reference question anymore. They don't do that. Okay. So you don't need to think about this. Okay. I don't want to confuse you guys. So not going to do this, but we will do 43. This, of course, it shows up. Okay. So the focus shifts from something to something. Okay, something to something. All right, so what are we going to do? Have an open mind, right? What do we say we're going to do when we're looking at focus shifts? We're just going to do a true-false test. And also, you're just going to check if the sequence is correct, right? So unless it's backwards or it's lying, it's true, okay? It's an answer. So a we know we haven't seen a criticism, right? Description of a recorded event. All right, so this can either be the Little Ice Age or this could be the volcano itself, right? So this is okay. To its likely cause. Okay, so then we need to say this is the Little Ice Age and this is the powerful volcano, which is IS, right? So this is okay. So B is okay, right? Use of ice core samples, right? Really? Really? You're going to pull this with me? Come on. Why are you even looking at this, right? As soon as it talks about like these specific vocabularies, you don't even need to look at this, okay? Use of okay, so it's not talking about the process. So B is the right answer, right? Okay, let's take a look. Is written in. Okay, why would he use this? Okay, so this is also a purpose question, right? Why would they use the word written in? Why would they use this phrase? That's what it's asking, right? Why would they use this phrase? Okay, so let's go back to the passage. Check this out. Line 6, it says that a powerful volcano erupted somewhere in the world sometime in the Middle Ages is written in polar ice cores, right? So it says, so what does that mean? It means if you take a look at the polar ice cores, you can know that the volcano erupted somewhere in the world sometime in the Middle Ages, right? This fact is written here. Okay, I mean, let's go back to the question. It says, demonstrate the concept of the hands-on, what? What do you mean, what does it mean hands-on? Yeah.
Like, you get in the field and you do the dirty work.
Yeah. So rather than, okay, so what's like a hands-on approach to learning physics? And like would be instead of you just calculating stuff like on paper in your physics class, you would actually swing like a baseball bat and then, you know, measure the force or whatever, something like that. You know, that's more of a hands-on approach, okay? That's what it is. Well, really? Is that why we would use the word is written in? No. Is it to suggest that they actually like went there and they got down and dirty and then they just, you know, like they looked at the ice cores? No, it's not about that. Highlight the fact that scientists often write about. No, it doesn't mean literally written in. It means like you can find that out by looking at the polar ice cores, by looking at that kind of thing. So not this. The sense of importance, no. Yeah, it's so, I mean, so this one I kind of screwed up, meaning, you know, I wasn't supposed to do a process of elimination. It's better to have looked for the answer. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? If you say something is written in polar ice cores, it means that's the evidence that they used, right? That's the evidence that they found, and that gave them the clue. So you would look for that answer rather than go through a process of elimination, okay? Okay, so this one is really easy, actually. If you got this one wrong, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Like, okay, so if you got this one wrong, there's a big trouble, right? So yeah, here we go, right? So A. So where do we see this? Okay, so first of all, the answer that you chose for 46, right? So 46 and 47 is linked, which means that you need to have both of these elements within the line reference, okay? So you can't just have one. You can't just have Indonesia in the line reference because you can't infer this. So you need this and also this, okay? So where would that be? Where is that? Is it D? Okay, it's D. Another possible candidate. What does this imply? Okay, now I don't know. I mean, it can mean a lot of different things, right? Another candidate. Well, what does that mean? Okay, let's find out. Powerful volcanic eruptions occur frequently. Okay, so who chose this? No one chose A? Okay, good. Right, so sometimes people choose this, but I mean, it just means that there was another one, literally. Literally, that's what it means. We have IS, and then, but we have another candidate. But, you know, maybe this is like once in a million. 1 in a million, you know? Why does it need to occur frequently? Just because there's two, right? So no. The effects of volcanic eruptions can last for centuries. Really? The phrase another possible candidate? So whenever you say there's another possible candidate, you mean that effects can last for a long time? Is that what it implies? That makes no sense whatsoever. What about C? They know of other volcanoes. There we go. Right. So that's why they have another possible candidate, right? Other volcanoes have What in the world is this? Okay, so C is right. Q was not responsible. Okay, so I know where that is. It's probably in the last paragraph, right? So, I mean, I'm just looking starting from D, but there we go, right? D is the answer. All the other answer choices. I was looking for something like all four answer choices being in the last paragraph or something like that, but you know, it's not that. So it's pretty easy. D is the right answer. 50. Who chose A? B? C? D? Okay, well, why do you choose D? Okay. Okay, what is it asking? Greatest below average temperature variation occurred around what year? Okay, so below average temperature. Okay, sorry, I can't. I mean, I can only vaguely see the graph here. Actually, on the board I can't see it. On my computer, I mean, do you guys see this? It's nearly impossible to see. Well, anyway, like if you see it here, there's a dip here. That's what it's asking, right? So it's 16 whatever, right? 1675, is it? Right? So that's the answer, okay? The passage and the figure are in agreement, so I'm just going to choose this. I'm not even going to look at the graph, right? So because I mean in the passage we talked about this the entire time, right? Before the end of the 13th century and that kind of thing, right? So there we go. 52. Chose A, B, C, D. All right, so if you chose B, you're in big trouble. Okay, so why? Because what is this asking? Is it asking about the passage also? No. This one is asking you what statement is best supported by the data presented in the figure. Okay, so numbers are going to support a conclusion, right? Numbers, right? You know what I mean, right? Can numbers support the fact that radiocarbon analysis is the best tool? You just have numbers. You know what I mean? You can't make a value judgment based on that. It's you know what I mean? Same for this one, okay? What about B? The sharp decline in temperature supports the hypothesis. Well, how do you know it's an equatorial eruption? I mean, what I see in the graph is just a bunch of numbers. Temperature variation. How do you know it's an equatorial eruption? No. Did you check A though? The greatest cooling during the Little Ice Age. When is this? So if you take a look at the graph. When is this? Greatest cooling during the Little Ice Age. When is this? When is this, guys? Greatest
1675.
100 years after the temperature peaks of the medieval warm period. When is this? Temperature peaks of the medieval warm period?
Around 400.
Okay, so it's 1200. Is that a hundreds of years difference? Yeah. How can you deny this? It's impossible, right? It's just a fact, right? Based on the numbers. So A is the right answer. Okay. Yeah. So those of you who didn't send me your SAT essay, you can still send me. Okay. Just give me a couple of days to respond to it. But you can still send me your essays. I'll give you your feedback. Okay. Preferably, though, do this. Okay. If you're not doing the annotations, for example, when you're doing transition questions, I want you to circle the key phrases. Okay. Do that, right? Do all that we talked about. For sentence structure questions, what do you need to do? What do you need to annotate?
The pronoun.
No.
Subject and verb.
Subject, verb, and what?
Object.
No. Conjunctions. Okay, so no one's doing it, I guess. Do it. Do it. You can't go to Cornell. You will get rejected because you didn't annotate. It will happen. No, honestly, it will happen if you don't. Because you can't count on yourself to get questions right 100% of the time. The only way you can do that is to slow you down. And to slow you down is to visualize stuff. Like visualize it and, Okay, so if someone tells you to do like this, would you do it in your head? I mean, you could, but you wouldn't. If answering this question could potentially cost you your college, would you do that? No. But why would you do it on the writing section? Why are you doing it in your head? Write it down. Okay? And if you're not 100% sure of your answer, mark it, okay? Put a star next to it, okay? All right. So, bye.